Hi everyone, I'm Bia and welcome back to Kardec Radio for Teens. So for those of you who haven't heard yet, Kardec Radio for Teens is starting a new thing on Facebook, trying to do videos instead of just the audio, instead of just the radio, so that we can make it a little more interactive and fun and not as boring if you don't like to just listen to something. So I'm just going to read the last little thing that we were talking about last week just to refresh our minds before we move on. And we're in the introduction of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And we talked about how the introduction is really important to read through because oftentimes we want to just skip it, right? We want to just get to the main part of the book. Let's skip the introduction. Who cares, right? Let's get to the story. But no, the introduction is really important and it provides us a lot of background information that is very useful when we get to the main part of the book, because then we're going to get to the main part of the book and we will be confused and we won't understand because we missed the key details in the introduction. So even though there's a very long introduction in this book, it is really important to read anyway. So the last part we left off on says, only one sure guarantee exists for spirit teachings. This is the concordance that exists between revelations which have been received spontaneously by a large number of mediums, not known to each other and located in different places. So that one little sentence there sums up what we were talking about last week, right? So we were saying how the spirit teaching, how we can tell it's accurate and it's the truth, it's by the concordance, right? So people are agreeing on it from all different places, all different spirit centers at the same time, and everyone's having these same ideas separately, and then when we come together, oh yeah, I had that the spirit gave me that same message, the spirit gave me that same message, and everyone is saying that. So now that we see that everyone can agree, everyone's agreeing on that in all parts of the world, people who aren't related to each other at all, and then that's how we see that it is really the truth. Because if we're just looking at one person, we might have, maybe that person's own personal opinion is getting into it. Maybe they're being influenced by a frivolous spirit who is telling them lies, or maybe not even a spirit who's telling them lies, but maybe a spirit who's just not as educated and thinks they're saying the truth, but with that truth, they're making mistakes and they're not completely saying accurate information. So if we're just looking at one person or one center, one group of people, even one country, it wouldn't be as certain, right, that this is the truth, this is real, because it's only coming from one group of people. But when it's all over the world and all different groups of people, that same message, we can say, okay, yeah, that really is the truth because everyone that's getting these messages can agree on this, right? And if there's one person that doesn't agree, maybe, right, we need to dissect that more. We need to see see what could be wrong with what that spirit's saying. And as we were saying, this can also apply to our daily lives because we have so much information coming at us, right, all the time on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on news, on a lot of different things, right? There's so many things coming our way, and what's real or not, right? What are we accepting that it's real, or should we take a moment to be like, I don't really know if that's real, let me look into it more, right? So it's something really important in our daily lives now because there's a lot of fake news that goes around, and sometimes that could be a very serious, harmful fake news, but sometimes it's just a little thing like a Photoshop picture that everyone thinks is real, but in reality it's Photoshop, but we all just take it for what it is and we just accept it as the truth because we don't analyze it, right? So it's important in our daily lives to think, where's this information coming from? Are people agreeing with this, or is this just one opinion that I'm seeing? Should I just believe this source, right? So there's a lot of considerations that we should all take into our lives, not just when looking at the spirit teachings, but in everything that's happening in our lives. And so going off of that, in the rest of this introduction, they continue on saying how this is really a helpful tool, not only in just getting that truth, but also that people who are trying to oppose to Spiritism, trying to go against it, they're not going to be able to, right? Because how many spirits are agreeing with that person's thoughts, right? How many people are agreeing with that person's thoughts? So it's not going to be as great of a agreement like the truth, right? Like the actual doctrine. And so for the actual doctrine, there's this agreement happening in all different types of the world from all different types of people. But then this one person's going to come with a different idea to go against all of Spiritism, but no one else is in that concordance, or maybe only a few people, maybe only a little bit. So that's gonna crush that those biases, right, in the doctrine, and those things that those people that are trying to make their own doctrine out of it, or trying to get rid of Spiritist doctrine, whatever it might be, whatever their intent might be, it's going to weed out all of those different things and leave only the truth. And also, they're saying we have to be careful to not be the people who do this, right? Be the people, maybe we're not trying to go against Spiritism, but maybe we have a different idea and we say, oh, but I heard this one time, so this has to be true, and we're trying to spread that to people. Or that they're saying, I'm telling you this and I studied it, so it has to be true, right? That doesn't matter, because we know that everyone makes mistakes, right? If we're on earth, we're making mistakes. So there could be people who are being influenced by a spirit who's trying to get the different message across. So just because they're saying it doesn't mean we just accept it for the truth without processing it and thinking of it, if it makes sense or not, right? If it seems like it's following the truth, seems like it's following the good path. And with that, they say a very important line. They say, it is not because we are taught a principle that we believe it to be true. It is due to the fact that it has received the sanction of concordance. So just because we hear something doesn't mean that it's true, right? Just because our teacher tells us something, someone at the Spirit Center tells us something, someone really important says that, or someone, just one of your friends something, just because someone says it doesn't make it true, right? We need to look more into it. We need to study into it. We need to see if other people are saying that, right? Are other scientists saying those same things, or just this one? Are other of your friends saying the same thing, or just one? And are they saying the right thing, right? Do they have good intentions? And maybe people aren't trying to be mean and harmful, but maybe they just don't know yet, because, right, we're not at that level of perfection, so we don't have all that knowledge. So we need to be aware of that just because we hear something doesn't mean it's true. And again, not just with the doctrine, but with everything in our lives, right? We need to process that, and we need to make those judgments for ourselves. And this is never a process that we're going to get to the end of. There's always going to be more that we're discovering, more that we're exploring, more facts that come out that need to be double checked, right? Maybe someone, right, a scientist discovers this one thing. Okay, that's one case of it. But now people need to do a lot of cases on that, right? And a lot of study on that, so that it happens over and over and over again. Then once it starts happening over and over again, they have that data, then they can take it, okay, this is the truth, right? And before that, it just is a theory, right? It's not a law, right? That happens in our science classes, right? In our everyday lives. So that's the same thing that's applying here, and that can apply to anywhere in our lives. Just because something happens one time doesn't mean we just accept it for the truth, right? We have to keep studying it, keep seeing those examples, experimenting that, seeing if we get it from different sources. And then, right, after all of that and our good reason and our conscience, then we can accept that as a truth. And they're even saying how even when a spirit says something that seems like, okay, yeah, that seems like it goes with Spiritism, that seems like it's in agreement, that seems like, it seems right, it seems like a good thing we should do, seems like good morals, but even all of that, we don't just accept it, right? We're gonna wait for more people to get that same message, for more people to agree with that, and to get all over the place, that popcorn all over the place, all those ideas at the same time. So just because, even if it is a great idea, we have to wait to just accept it. And they're saying that even sometimes, if it is, even if it's released to the public, it's just an idea, right? We're not taking that as the full truth. So we just have to be conscious of that we're waiting for the confirmation of that, but we don't have the confirmation, right? We can think about this idea, we can see what we think, but it's not 100% the truth. And we just have to be open to that idea, right? That everything we read isn't the truth. So we need to process it and analyze it before we just accept it. And then they continue on to say that, again, this concordance, right, this agreement of everyone is the final test. Because if someone's trying to come with a different theory, a contradictory theory, saying, no, you're wrong, this is the real truth, where is that agreement for those people, right? And that's the final test if it's the truth, that agreement, that concordance amongst everyone all over the earth, or most people all over the earth, right? People getting those messages. And again, the same thing with scientists. Are scientists all over the earth getting those same messages, or just one scientist, right? It requires further experimentation, and that's the same thing we're doing here. And it says, and then it continues, there's no comparison between a system devised by only one person to that of another devised by everyone, right? So how powerful is it when all these people from different parts of the world who don't even know each other are agreeing on the same thing, versus one person who had an idea, who's trying to spread it, maybe to be mean, maybe to fool around, or whatever it may be. So, right, how powerful is something that's backed by everyone, right? The same thing by science. All these scientists come together to support this thing. You say, okay, wow, like they're really getting to something, right? That really is close to the truth if all these scientists are agreeing on it. And that's the same thing. That's the same way we can look at it. And just in our daily lives, we have to keep that in mind. And as we see here, the spirits are repeating this over and over and over again to really get the point across and to really make sure we understand that. And even saying, we don't have to just accept these words, right? Process them, analyze it, and see if you agree with what's being said. And we know that this book especially has already been analyzed and processed and had that agreement so many times, but still do it as like a practice, right? Are you just agreeing with everything I say just because I'm saying it, or because you truly believe in it, you truly agree that this is correct, right? And this book we know is correct, but I'm just a person like everyone else, right? And I also make mistakes, so maybe I do slip up. And just because I slip up doesn't mean we have to accept everything I say for what I say, right? So now I just want to take a little message from this book, Enduring Gems by Chico Xavier. And this one's titled Accomplishment. And it says, Jesus said, to each one will be granted according to his own work. Do not worry about the others, except to help them, because the law of God does not know you for what you observe, but through your accomplishments. Chico Xavier and Andre Luis. So this is a simple message, but really important with this is, even if we do see, okay, maybe that doesn't seem right, maybe what my friend's telling me isn't really a good thing, right? And they might be confused, or they might have their own opinions, their own ideas. Just keep in mind that we can't change people, right? We can try and get them help if it's serious, but what we need to do is try and find that truth for ourselves. We can't just attack people and say, oh no, you're wrong because I read this, that this is right, right? We don't know that, so we don't want to be aggressive. We don't want to attack people when we do think we found the right opinion, right? After we did all that analyzing, we say, okay, I think this is the truth. We don't want to attack people with that either, right? We can help them, we can try and guide them, lead by example, right? Have these accomplishments, and these accomplishments based off of things we learned, right? Oh, I learned this and I was able to accomplish this from it. And maybe that person will be like, wow, that's awesome. And they'll be able to learn from that, right? From your experience. And in everything we do, right? Yes, help one another, but don't worry about what they're up to, right? Worry about yourself and what you're up to and what you're accomplishing, because what's going to matter is what you accomplish, not what you're seeing. So just another thing to work on, because I know we've been talking about trying to analyze the fake news and the real news, but also, right, to start realizing that we have to start with ourselves, right, and analyze for ourselves before we can help others, and use what we're analyzing to help us reach accomplishments and actually do something useful with that information that we gained, right? And that's how we're going to improve, by doing things, right? Not just realizing, not just sitting there, not just reading or just listening to this, right? But using these things and putting it into our daily lives. That's what's going to really help us and really make an impact in our lives, by having these accomplishments based off what we learned, based off what we're realizing and analyzing. So hopefully this week we can all work on continuing to analyze, right, the information that we receive in our lives, and what we're going to take as truth and what we might reconsider before we just accept it. And also, right, to work on ourselves, work on our accomplishments instead of worrying about what other people are doing, right? Help other people, but we don't need to be worried about all the mistakes they're doing when we have plenty of mistakes that we can work on and fix, and accomplishments that we can reach, that we can achieve, that will help us improve. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to talk about at all, feel free to comment or email me at kardecradioforteens@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you right away. I'm Bia, and this has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for watching.